Big hello to all of you. Welcome to DUJAT Rapid Revision series. Well, I'm sure you have butterflies in your stomach, and that's a good thing because that will keep you, say, active. It will keep you on your toes, and you will keep studying hard. So don't take it otherwise. It's a good thing to have butterflies in your stomach. Well, today we will talk about a very, very important concept here, which is expected in this paper, and this one is called Para Jumbles. Now, see, you can expect at least 2 to 3 questions based on this topic in the test. So why not prepare it well? And let's just understand what is Para Jumble all about before we see how to deal with it. Well, Para Jumble is a paragraph that has been jumbled and nothing else. Now, how to fix it? See, first of all, try and understand that there are 2 to 3 types of para jumbles. One will be closed para jumble, that is, they will be fixed. First and last options will be fixed. So you'll have to work in the middle part. And then there can be another one where um, no first and last path will be fixed. You will have to work on the options that are there. So no fixed paths. They will be, let's say, good 4 or 5 options, and they will be MCQ based on options, and you'll have to see which one works best, which order is the best. You'll have to sequentialize. That's what essentially Parajumble is all about. And then there can be type in answer type questions, which generally don't appear in the DUJAT paper, but it cannot be eliminated, say, completely. So, I mean, the possibility cannot be eliminated completely. So, let's just understand how to deal with parajumbles because these, though very easy, can get very tricky. And this is one topic which is completely strategy based. So if you know the technique, you don't even have to understand what you're doing. You can get the answer right 100%. Just understand the strategies, and the one of the trickiest topics can become one of the most scoring topics in this entrance test. So let's just begin. So we will say focus on certain strategies first, and then we will practice certain questions, and I'm sure your concepts will be, say, on the track. So let's just start. Hello. Now, see, we will talk about some super strategies that will ease the process for you. Now, the first one is that, see, when you will be given, say, 4 to 5 sentences to arrange in some order, there will be MCQ based options. So instead of trying to put the sentences in order, start with the answer choices. So let's say the options are, so you have sentence A, and then you have sentence B, and then you have sentence C, and then you have sentence D. And then you have options, say A, B, C, D, let's say B, C, D, hello, and let's say C, D, A, B, and let's just say D, A, B, C, whatever. So you'll have 4 MCQ based answer choices. Just try and see if A, B, C, D, or B, C, D, A, or C, A, D, B, or D, A, B, C, whatever the choices are. Do you think, I mean, try and figure out if these can be your possible passage openers. You will be able to eliminate at least 2 answer choices there and then because of obvious reasons. Some sentences are not meant to be passage openers, and on the other hand, there are some sentences, they are so strong in themselves, they are so broad in their concept that they will scream and say, oh, I'm the passage opener, and you will be able to identify it. Okay. So eliminate the ones that would not be possible passage openers, eliminate them. Then you will have to work around lesser answer choices to get your answer right. So that's strategy number one. Never try to rearrange the sentences. Instead, start with the answer choices and see which ones work best. You don't have to put all of them together. Just look at the first alphabet of each answer choice in the beginning and try and eliminate the possible answer choices that cannot work as passage openers. Okay. Now let's see. Let's look at the other next super strategy. Now they generally see any paragraph when structured correctly will always talk about a broad generalized statement. Then we'll talk about specification, and then probably it'll say The writer will substantiate with some examples. That is the general structure of any paragraph. And what is a para jumble? It's at the end of the day, it's a paragraph that they have jumbled. So it follows the same strategy. That means what we discussed in the last slide was that try to look for the broad passage opener and see if out of the answer choices, which one will say be the broad passage opener, eliminate the rest. Now, these two are kind of interlinked. Now, here you need to identify out of the four or five options that you have, the four or five sentences that you have, out of these four or five sentences, which sentence can work as the passage opener. It will be a broad, generalized statement always. So your passage will never start with, but he said this, or however he felt that, or if he did that, or this is what he meant. Now, if they say this is what is meant, that means there is something else that should precede this line. What is this? This. That would be elsewhere. So that means all these kind of statements that begin with such things will never be broad opening statements. That means something else which could begin with a proper noun most of the times or with a broad generalized idea should be your passage opener, and the next sentences to follow should be specifications of the same broad idea. And examples generally come in the end. Now, here there is another thing that you could keep in mind is that generally the thoughts are, say, past tense, then present tense, and then you go to future tense. So, this is how, that's another way the paragraphs can be structured. That is one of the ways the paragraphs can be structured. Now, let's see. The other strategy that will help you get the answer right is this one. The most effective technique, pair your sentences. Now let's see, they've given you four sentences which you have to say arrange in the right order. Now see, all these sentences should be connected to one to each other. That is the idea, and that's how you frame a paragraph. But then here you will notice that, say, some sentences will naturally connect to one another. So let's just say I'm talking about a gentleman named Abraham, and he's fond of reading. And then he says that his mother actually led him to reading, and she used to say read stories to him before he went to bed every night. Let's say this was the coherent paragraph, and I've jumbled this far, and I've put them, say, in some jumbled order in front of you. Now here, Abraham and his that he was fond of reading. These two are mandatory pairs in no matter in what order I put them in, and his mother and the way she read for him. These are other two mandatory pairs. So even if the sentences have been jumbled up, I know that Abraham and he will should be put together, and mother and she should be put together. So that's the way of identifying the mandatory pairs. And this technique will help you eliminate a lot of answer choices. And here, see, the idea is smart work as well. So if you can safely eliminate other answer choices, when you can see that, okay, these are mandatory pairs, these will work together, these, say, one sentence naturally leads to the other. So you will be able to safely eliminate some of the answer choices, and that will reduce your work, and you will know that you got your answer right. So that's one way of looking at it. This strategy works 100%, and it's a very useful strategy when it comes to para jumbles. Now let's see. Okay, this is another very good strategy. Try to find the passage opener and what could be possible conclusive statement in the given paragraph. So even this will help you eliminate a lot of wrong answer choices. Like already discussed, the passage opener will be a broad statement, and the last statement will generally be very conclusive in nature. So it will try to sum up whatever has been said in the previous statements. So if at all you're not able to find the mandatory pairs, if you're not able to identify other things, probably this thing will help you identify the answers more quickly. So having said this, let's just see. Oh, there's another strategy. See, there are certain words that will help you identify what possibly cannot be the passage opener, or it will help you identify the mandatory pairs. And these are some of those words. Now, for example, let's say the statement is that they developed a philosophy, and then they write that this philosophy helped them, say, get more customers or sell better or more than their competitors. Now, see, the first statement says that they developed some philosophy, and later on they say this philosophy. Now, what philosophy? This philosophy. That means they've already talked about the philosophy in some previous statement, and then they're saying, okay, this philosophy here. Now, when the paragraph is all jumbled, probably they've written the statement with this philosophy first, and then they've written, okay, the philosophy or a philosophy, whatever. So, you know that this sentence, which is probably sentence number D, should be written first. It should precede, let's say, sentence number A, which says this philosophy. So there are certain words which will highly, really help you uh, understand which sentence should be written first and which sentence will naturally follow the previous statement. So these things work and they work 100% because that these strategies follow general rules of grammar and these follow the general principle on which the paragraphs are framed. Now let's see. Uh, the other thing when writing your test paper is never forget to read the instruction carefully. So, whatever direction or instruction has been given to you, it won't take more than say, a second or maybe 2 seconds, 3 seconds at the most to read the instruction. And if possible, if you can highlight the instructions, do that. That will help you remember. See, you will be in a stressed environment in the exam. So if you forget anything that's what that was important part of the instruction, the possibility that you will not even realize that you made a mistake. So highlight the question if that's possible. If not, focus, read the question a little carefully so that you do not miss any important instruction in the question. Now let's read this one together. Well, this one says that in these questions, first and the last statements are numbered 1 and 6, and the rest of the passage is split in four parts P, Q, R, S. These four parts are not in their proper order, and you have to read the sentence and find out which combination is correct. So you have a closed para jumble, and there are four options, four MCQ based options, and we need to find out which is the right answer. So why don't we read this together and try and figure out what is the right answer to this para jumble? Now, students, some questions only demand smart work. They really do not need hard work. You can do these type of questions quickly, you can do them correctly and save time for the rest of the sections of your paper or rest of the more difficult parts of the paper. So let's look at this one. Let's do some smart work. Let's apply some strategies and let's get some good answers. So let's just start. The first one says, people are like potatoes. Interesting, right? Well, no time for this. People are like potatoes. That's number one with fixed statement. It won't change. So whatever will be written will follow the statement. And then there are options. It says it is only after potatoes have been sorted and bagged that they are loaded onto trucks. Q statement says after potatoes have been harvested, they have to be spread out and sorted in order to get maximum market dollar. Next statement says this is the method that Idaho potato farmers use, all but one. They are divided according to big size, medium, and small. One farmer never bothered to sort the potatoes. Now, see, when you read these, now let's look at the answer choices. Can we begin our passage or can P naturally follow 1? That is first thing that you should see. So there are two options that say P should follow 1 and there are two options that say Q should naturally follow 1. So one way of looking at it is that see what is a better answer choice, P or Q, that should follow point number one. Second way of looking at it, should S precede 6? Should R precede 6 or should P precede 6? If even this doesn't work, try and see if there are any mandatory pairs in the sentence. And I've figured out one already. Now see, okay, I've got one answer. Let's see. Um, See, this method that all Idaho potato farmers use, all but one. One farmer never bothered to sort the potato. So I feel that R should naturally precede 6. That's what I think. I mean, now let's see how many options have R as the last statement, and there is only one, which is B. Now, see, either I try and apply all the other strategies, or I don't have time. Let's just see if this is the right answer. Let's just see. So people are like potatoes. What if I put Q after this? After potatoes have been harvested, they have to be spread out. and sorted to get the maximum dollar. And then what if I put S? They are divided according to big size, medium, and small. And then if I put P, it is only they have been sorted. Well, these two do look mandatory. Hello, Vinayak. These two also look mandatory, S and P. And then what if I put R? Well, I feel R actually precedes number six. Now let's see what your answer is. And well, I've got two answers, and let's see if the answers are right. Oh, yes, your answer is 100% right. Now let's see why. Because R and 6 form mandatory pairs and pair, and there is only one option that says R should precede 6. So that gives me one big reason to believe that this is the right answer. But still, if I'm not satisfied, I could actually go ahead and try to see if this option fits, and I'll be sure if my answer is right or not. And there was another reason that S and P also look mandatory pairs. See how they are divided according to size, big, small, and big, medium, and small. And after they have been sorted. Now, how did they sort it? Maybe they put, okay, bigger ones here, smaller ones here, middle size here. So that is how they sorted it. So S and P look mandatory paired, and R and 6 look mandatory pairs. So the only option that has, good afternoon, that has S and P as mandatory pair and are preceding 6. So the right order of this para jumble would be 1, Q, S, R, P, and then 6. But you don't have to write all this. You just have to tick the right answer, which is P in this case. All right. Now let's do one more together. Okay, a very interesting one, very short. Now, see, in the DUJAT paper, don't expect lengthy uh, sentences. They can be short, but they would be confusing because the options would be really close. So, apply some logic. Try to see if you can figure out a lot of things that we have discussed. So, what could precede number one? What could succeed number one? What could precede number six? Or if at all there is a mandatory pair, work your way around it, and let's do the answer. Let's get the answer together. So this one is the lead story. That's number one. And then at 4 a.m. in tonight's news concerns a fire which engulfed the Columbia College this morning. Now, can my sentence, can R naturally succeed? Number one. Can Q succeed? Number one. So the only two options are these. Or the other way of looking at it, can Q precede this morning? Should S precede? Should P precede? Or should Q precede number six? So these are some of the strategies. Or other than that, you could look for mandatory pairs. That will help you get the answer. Okay, I've got the answer from a lot of you. Fine, fantastic. So all of you say it's B. Let's check the answer together. Let's see how to get the answer. So, oh, absolutely right. Your answer is correct. Now, let's see why. Now, see, the lead story. Let's look at the mandatory pairs first. Concerns the fire which engulfed Columbia College. So, R and S look like mandatory pairs. So, first of all, you need to look at the options that have R and S put together. So, this one and this one. So, it looks like we'll have to eliminate C and D. So, the choice would have been between A and B. Now, let's see. There's one more thing that I noticed here. At 4 a.m. this morning, see, P and 6 also look like mandatory pairs. So P should naturally precede 6. So the this one, see, what if I try to put Q before this morning? In tonight's news this morning, do you think if I had selected option A as my answer, would Q fit with the six number six? No, it wouldn't have. Whereas in option B, according to option B, the lead story um, in tonight's news concerns the fire which engulfed Columbia State at 4 a.m. this morning. Now, I really didn't have to read the sentences and try and figure out what would be the answer. I just worked my way around it very smartly by finding certain things that will direct me to the answer. Let's try another one. Mind it, the level of difficulty will only increase with every passing question. Okay. So Anna longed to see her son, that's your fixed statement, and she rushed out of her house, hailed a taxi to reach the station in time. Those are the two fixed statements. And the middle ones are he will arrive at the station at 10 o'clock, she said to herself. She prepared herself for it. She looked at the clock. There were only 5 minutes left. She rushed out of the house. Well, see, this can be very tricky, but follow the strategy and you will get the answer in no time. Find that one mandatory pair. See what will succeed one, what will precede six, and you will get the answer and it will be right. See, from what I can see, there is definitely a set of mandatory pairs. Now, this one is. She looked at the clock, only 5 minutes were left. So, R and S form a mandatory pair. Now, let's see which option has R and S as a mandatory pair. PR, 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 SR. SNR. Well, that's the one that I was looking for. Now, the chances that D would be the right answer increase here. Okay, you say it's A. Let's put this together. Now, see, she longed to see her son, and then if I say Q, she prepared herself for it, and then if I put P, he will arrive, she said to herself, and then R, she looked at the clock, and then I put S. There were only 5 minutes left. She rushed out. Okay, let's look at the answer together. Absolutely right. So all of you have given the right answer. C. So R and S were mandatory pairs. Only A and O. Only A had that. No, there was another one. D. Actually, we needed R and S, not S and R. So even this will be eliminated. So the only one which had this option was A. And when we put it together, we feel that the answer is absolutely right. So good job, people. Let's look at another one. People have wrong calculations about Japan's population, fixed statement. So it's very high in Japan. No, this is not true, and old people die more than the young. There are more old people in Japan. The question is whether Japan has a lower death rate. Now, see, I can see, all right, Mansi, great. Now, I can definitely see a mandatory pair here. These two sentences should be put together. That helps me get the answer. What do you think? The mandatory pair is the question is whether Japan has a lower rate. No, this is not true. So you ask a question and you get the answer. It doesn't matter whether the answer is right or wrong or positive or negative. A question was asked and the answer was given. So S and P form a mandatory pair. Now let's look at the options that have S and P as one of the mandatory pairs, and that looks like B. Let's see if the answer is right. Okay. C. SP put together only in option B. Yes, very good. SP is mandatory. Very good, Vinayak. Now let's see. Let's just test our theory now. So people have wrong calculations about Japan's population. The question is whether Japan has a lower death rate. No, this is not true. Then I put R. There are more old people and old people die. Okay, Q and R also form a pair. So there are more old people and old people die more than the young. So it is very high in Japan. And this answers the previous things, right? So very beautifully, very efficiently, and very quickly, we know that the answer is number 10. Very good, people. Now let's see. Pollution is one of the evils brought about by the growth of science. That's my fixed statement. People living in the surrounding breathe the impure air and are affected by diseases of lungs and heart. That's another fixed statement. Now let's see what is the answer. I mean, the middle part says air pollution is very harmful, has very harmful effects. They pollute the air and the atmosphere. It's making the atmosphere, water, and air dirty. Factories and industries keep throwing out smoke which contains toxic gases. Now, can we place any sentence right after number one or any sentence just before number six, or is there a mandatory pair? Find out. Well, I've got at least one sentence that I feel will naturally succeed number one. And that statement is R. See, pollution is one of the evils brought by the growth of science. It is making the environment, water, and air dirty. So, pollution caused by science, and what is it doing? It's making things dirty. So, these two sentence R takes the thought further and naturally follows number one. Now let's see what all options take R as the first statement. Oh, there is only one. Fantastic. Let's see if the answer is right. And that it is. Now, see, there's another thing that was worth noting in this one that factories, industries keep throwing out smoke which contains toxic gases, plural. They pollute the air and the atmosphere. So they corresponds with what? Gases. So that means S and Q form another mandatory pair. So there are two mandatory pairs in this one. One, one and R, and then you have S and Q. And let's see which offers both of them, S, Q, and R. That's option B. So good job. Let's put this together. So, pollution is one of the evils brought about by the growth of science, and then it is making the environment, water, and air dirty. And then P, air pollution. Now, see, from general, we are moving to specific. So, in general, pollution talks about all sorts of pollution, whether on land, air, or water. Then it comes to specification. Now, we are particularly talking about air pollution. See, now, see, and then we put P, air pollution has harmful effects. Then we put S, factories and industries keep throwing out smoke, and then they pollute the air and the atmosphere. And then people living in surroundings breathe the impure air and are affected by diseases of lungs and heart. Now, see, one way of getting the answer right is looking for particular information, and the moment you get it, and of course, the other way around it is that try, test and try initially when you're practicing whether the other options are right or not. You will realize that something will not click. Say you will not be able to put P and S together, or maybe you will not be able to put Q and R together, or maybe R will not precede number six. So something will go amiss, something will not be right, and you would know that those answer choices are definitely wrong. So you really don't have to work around arranging the parts, the jumbled parts of the sentences. Look at the answer choices, and when you read the options, try and see if you can find anything that can be put together for various reasons, whether they naturally succeed, whether they're going from past to present, whether they're talking about the same person or the same idea or the same concept. So put them together, go to the answer choices, see if you can find that pair. And if you feel that you cannot find it there, that means you were going in the wrong direction, and then start again. Okay. Now let's see. Let's look at the next one. A very good para jumble based question. Again, you have first and the last part fixed, and it says optimism is not a deep, complicated philosophy. So we are talking about optimism here, which is a really good thing. And then it says in some persons it's an inborn trait. In fact, it is always taking a positive and bright view of life. It is more of a general attitude of life. They are turned that way by nature and temperament. However, in most cases, it's an acquired and nurtured habit. Now, if I just read maybe I may not be able to form a structure, but then that's what the strategies are for. Work around the strategies. Let's see if R can naturally follow one, or Q, or P, or P. Or maybe if S can precede 6 or Q can proceed or R can proceed, and work your way around it and get the answer. Harshita says the answer is B. Manan says B. Okay, two students are saying the answer is B. There's another one, Mansi, she says the answer is B. All right, let's look at it together. Can anyone tell me if there was a mandatory pair in this parajumble? Anything at all? Oh, my answer differs. Let's see why. Let's see. Optimism is not a deep, complicated philosophy. In some persons, it's an inborn trait. In fact, it is always taking a positive and bright view of life. It is a more general attitude. Actually, I feel that R naturally succeeds number one. Yes, good Vinayak. Reason, see, they think optimism is not this. So if it is not this, what is it? It is a more general attitude of life. And then it is followed by in fact. You know what in fact does? It further asserts what you have already said. So, for example, I'll say, I like doing this. In fact, I do it every day. Now, if I'm doing something every day, that means I like it. That is the reason why I'm doing it every day. I mean, of course, other than something that are meant to be done every day, I'm just categorically, or maybe to quote an example, saying, in fact, would only support what you have already said. So if I say, oh, I love fruits, in fact, I eat mangoes or fruits every day. So, in fact, any statement that starts with in fact or has in fact in it, it will only further assert the truth. What has been already said, it will say, oh, whatever has been said before is actually true. So, you could very safely say that Q and R are mandatory pairs. That's one way of looking at it. And then the other one, R and Q form a triplet. Why? The first statement says optimism is not deep, complicated policy philosophy. So if it is not it, what is it? It is a more general attitude of life. In fact, it's always taking positive and bright view of life. So we know that we need one R and Q. Let's look for the option that will have R and Q as one of the options, and that's number one. Yes, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right, Vinayak. I couldn't agree more. So the ones who got the answer not exactly the way it should have been, I hope this made it clear as to why A is a better answer choice compared to B. And see, let's just see. So P and S form a good pair, as we can see in both the cases. Fine, that's okay. But you cannot say optimism is not a deep, complicated policy. And then you say in fact, because this is saying not, and this is in fact, it is positive. So Q doesn't naturally succeed. One, why? Because it's not further asserting what has been said previously. It's giving more emphasis on R. So whatever you've said in R, that okay, it is a general attitude. In fact, this is this as well. So better pair, right? So right now, let's look at the next question. Okay, here we come to a different section where the question says in each of the following questions, there are some statements that have to be arranged in logical order to make a sensible paragraph. You have to choose a correct option. Now, see, here I don't see any first and last fixed part. So, this one is an open para jumble where no fixed parts. You just have the options and the MCQ based answer choices. So, you have to read here, you will have to decide which sentence out of the four sentences can work as an opening statement. I mean, all the strategies that we have read apply 100%. So use any strategy that you feel will help you get the answer faster and correctly. More correctly is your answer. So let's do this together. Now, this says oh, I already got the answer. So while I was talking, somebody was working around the question. So let's see how appropriate is the answer. This says he was always draped in modest but decent suit. Lean and intense, Menon was endowed with a remarkable presence. His eyes piercing, his broad forehead, and merging into the disheveled, silvery lock of hair. Smart, handsome fellow. Hogged nose, sensuous lips, heavy voice, tapering fingers, always busy explaining ideas and mood supplemented by his extraordinary mind. Now, whenever if I just read these, probably I would not be able to say place a finger on how to rearrange the paragraph. But if I use the strategies, that is, if I look at the answer choices and then try and figure out which strategy works best and try and get the answer, a lot of you have answered. So let's look at the answer choices together. Now, see, the answer is okay, A. Let's understand why. Now, see, a very good reason for choosing B as a broad opening statement, it talks about menon, a proper noun, and rest of the statements just talk about pronouns. See, that's a good enough reason for you to choose any option that would have begun with B. And see, you can say he was always draped in modest, decent clothes, and then you say that lean and intense Menon was endowed with a remarkable presence. See, your sentence, your paragraph has to begin with the proper noun, and then the pronouns follow. So, since there was the only option that began with B in this particular case was A, so there's a good reason. This is a good enough reason for you to choose A and mark it as your answer. But then before you mark it as your answer, let's do a quick check and see whether this is right or not. The lean and intense, Menon was endowed with a remarkable presence. And then let's put A. He was always draped in modest and decent suit. See, it's a generalized thought. So he had a remarkable presence and he was, say, modestly dressed. He was decently dressed. Now his eyes piercing, his forehead and his nose and lips. See, the first two statements were very broad, generic statements about his overall presence. And C and D talk about only eyes, only forehead, only hands, only fingers, and only, say, his mind and other parts of the body. So, see, this is how general to specification rule works. So, what you do, you put the generic statements first, the overall appearance first. So, if I were to talk about India, I'll just first say, oh, India is a uh, country where you can find a lot of diversity. So why diversity? Because you have variance in, say, the land features and even the kind of people that have made this place as their abode. So, and then you talk about only this section of the society or only that section of the society or maybe some other section of the society. So broad and then to specifics. Why not D? Okay. Yeah, good question. Let's see why not D. So what, okay, I begin my passage with the option, say B, because it talks about menin. And then if I place C and D, and then I place A, C, the reason why this is any given minute a better answer choice than D, the only difference is C. C and D are put together because they are mandatory pairs. Now, the reason why A should be placed after B is that A is again a generalized statement, his overall appearance. And then C and D talk about specific parts of his body, only eyes, only forehead, only fingers, only lips or nose. So, general, specific. Clear? That is the reason why we should choose A against B. Okay? Now, let's do another one together. Okay, another very good statement and a very good parajumble. So again, an open para jumble. This is arrived here on Saturday by an early morning flight. Dubai-based Win Chadda, who is accused in the rupees 64 crore gun kickback case. He is scheduled to appear in the trial court on Tuesday. I think I found my. He is the deciding factor. Are we talking about this statement, Kiran? I mean, this para jumble that is number 8. See, the rule will stay the same. You should begin your paragraph with the proper noun before you move on to pronouns. So keep that in mind and then try and figure out your answer. See, Arrived here on Saturday. So okay, none of the options begins with A, so there's no point. It can begin with B or D. The Dubai-based Vin Chadda, or he is scheduled to appear in trial court. I'd very safely say that I'll eliminate these two and try to figure out the answer out of A and B. Now let's see. Number seven. Okay. Yes, that was right, Kiran. Now see, should BA be put together or BC be put together? So Dubai-based Vin Chadda, who is the accused in the 64 crore kickback case, or who is the arrived? See, it doesn't even make sense. So you can very safely eliminate this one and choose B as the right answer. Good job. 100% marks to you all. Very good. So let's just see if this works well. Now, Dubai-based in Jeddah, who is the accused in the 64 crore guns kickback case, arrived here on Saturday by an early morning flight. He is scheduled to appear in the trial court on Tuesday. Works perfectly well. Now, let's look at the next one. Good. Very good. Okay. Try and figure this one out. Again, an open para jumble. The king was not impressed. Finally, this looks like very conclusive the moment I read the word finally. An elderly person with a glow on his face walked in and said that he was a teacher. The king came down from his throne and bowed to honor the teacher. There is a story about a king in ancient times who wanted to honor a person that made greatest contribution to society. All kinds of people came, including doctors, entrepreneurs, and they presented their case for receiving the honor. Now let's just see. What do you think is the right answer? Can you begin your sentence with A, the king was not impressed? I hope not. B, finally an elderly person, no. Or C, yes. There is a story about a king in ancient times who wanted to honor a person that made greatest contribution to the society. So looks like a good start. Should I place A after it or D? That would be the deciding factor. So he all kinds of people came, including doctors, entrepreneurs, and they presented their case. The king was not impressed. Finally, a person came. This one looks pretty simple. Yes, very easy peasy. Yeah, easy peasy. I understand. So, and I agree. Yes, this one would be D, C, D, and then A, and then B. Very good. Now let's look at this one. Let's see if you find this one easy. So this says Atlantis was fabulously beautiful and prosperous land, the seal of an emperor 9,000 years before Sloane. Because of the impiety of its people, the island was destroyed by an earthquake and inundation. Now, inundation is that a lot of people came there. Its inhabitants overran parts of Europe and Africa, Athens alone being able to defy them. Plato in the Thames first mentioned the legendary island in the Atlantic Ocean beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Now figure out what do you think? See, we can obviously not begin our sentence with this. So, had that been an option, you would have eliminated it. Its inhabitants. You cannot begin your sentence, I mean, the passage with C also, not even a choice. So, it has to be between A or D. Now, figure out what is the right answer. Should your passage begin with A or should it begin with D, which is more introductory in nature? Say, Plato in the Thames first mentioned a legendary island in the Atlantic Ocean beyond the Pillars of Hercules, or Atlantis was a fabulously beautiful and prosperous land, the seal of an empire 9,000 years before Sloane. Which option can work as a broad introductory statement? Well, I'd say it's D. C. All right, I've got the answer. So, Plato in the Thames first mentioned a legendary island. And what was this island called? It was Atlantis. So, it was a fabulously beautiful and prosperous land. So, I feel that D and A. So, D can be passage opener and then A can naturally succeed D. Why? So it was introduced first time as a legendary island in the Atlantic Ocean, probably because of which it was called the Atlantis. So it was first mentioned opening statement. Then it was now they're further talking about what was Atlantis or how was Atlantis. So it was beautiful and prosperous, and there was a seal of the and I mean seal of the empire 9,000 years before Sloane. So we have kind of figured out the answer. Let's just see if we can put two and two together. And then we put C. Its inhabitants ran parts of Europe and Africa, Athens alone being able to defy them. Because of the impiety of the people, it was destroyed by an earthquake and inundation. So, looks like a good answer choice. Let's quickly see what the actual answer is. And fantastic. Bingo, your answer is right. That is DACD. Now, students, with this, I come to the end of this session. Um, that was only to give you an overview how to use the strategies to get your answers. So go ahead, practice more, use the strategies and see if they work for you and get your answers right. Do well in the entrance test. My colleagues and I will be back with lots more videos for you to help you do better in the forthcoming entrance test. Best wishes. See you soon. Bye bye.